On behalf of Pax Christi Maine members all across our beautiful state, Denny Dreyer and I, Mary Ellen Quinn, want to extend prayers of thanksgiving to Pax Christi USA on their 50th year anniversary. Our video will give viewers a glimpse of our activities to further peace, justice, and gospel nonviolence here in Maine. Our Pax Christi Maine members and council are inspired and supported by the outstanding work accomplished by the good folks, both past and present, at Pax Christi USA. For all of this, we are grateful. Thank you.
I'm Connie Jenkins, belong to Pax Christi, Maine. And when Mary Ellen and Denny asked us to take part and just write something briefly or come up with something brief, I went back to something that I wrote a long time ago during the Iraq War at the beginning. Charlotte Herbold, who probably everyone here will remember, who was just a wonderful, wonderful longtime member of Pax Christi and an activist, was also at the time the editor of the Peace and Justice newsletter in Eastern Maine. And I was trying to figure out exactly when this was. I'm not sure exactly, but I think that it was shortly after the Republican National Convention in New York in 2004, because I had gone, with many, many other people and taken part in the peace demonstrations there. And when I came back, I think that this was the time Charlotte asked me if I would write an article for the newsletter about, let's see how it is, about how being a member of Pax Christi helps sustain me as a peacemaker. So I haven't looked at this for a long time. I went back and looked at it. It was about a page and a quarter. And when I read it over, I saw that, sadly, that it is as relevant now as it was then in terms of what was bringing forth the feelings. And so I thought that I would just read the brief paragraph, the last paragraph of the article, because it answers Charlotte's question and certainly still is what Pax Christi means to me today. Pax Christi sustains me as a peacemaker in this very difficult time because it is a spiritual home, a community of prophetic Christians doing their best to live according to the gospel, to replace hatred with love, war with peace, violence with nonviolence. The work for nonviolence, human rights, and social and economic justice is a labor of love, but often an exhausting one. We all need some type of sanctuary that provides a place for healing, transformation, and renewal. For me, Pax Christi is that sanctuary. Thank you.
Thank you, Connie. I saw Jack's hand go up.
My name is Jack Seary. I've been part of Pax Christi, Maine for 3 or 4 years, something like that. Been involved with nonviolence since 1978. When Mary Ellen posed a question, I had to think for a few minutes and decided I wanted to say something about our mini retreats. And it goes something along this line. Jesus tells us to love our enemies because that's what the God he knows does. That's what he does and what he invites us to do because that's what he does. The statement in the Advancing Nonviolence and Just Peace in the Church and the World says to love our enemies because that's what God does. The nonviolence of Jesus, to put it another way, is profoundly theological because it is grounded in his communion with God. It is out of that experience that they fully embraced the full witness of nonviolent love from the early parts of his ministry to the death on the cross. For the past couple of years, Pax Christi Maine has taken this truth seriously, as we have in the past, but with a different kind of flavor to it. In addition to our annual retreat, we have developed a series of, quote, mini 2 to 3 hour retreats as a way of fostering the spiritual grounding of our nonviolent discipleship. In addition to that, it also has had an after effect or a side effect. It really continues to deepen the communal dimension of our life as a community by being able to come together periodically, every couple of months perhaps, and sharing the deeper part of our own spirit with others in the community. That's a very bonding kind of thing, and we need that to sustain us in times as we're experiencing these days. Fortunately, Zoom has come into existence, which allowed us to share this kind of experience with our whole community, statewide community. Whether we would have thought of that if we hadn't been forced to it, I don't know, but I'm very grateful that we did. So via Zoom and via building community and fostering the sense of a spiritual consciousness that grounds our nonviolence, that's really a fundamental, a key piece for me around Pax Christi Maine. Thank you.
Thank you, Jack, very much. Mary Beth?
Hi, my name is Mary Beth DeMarco. I haven't been a member of Pax Christi for the whole 50 years, but for most of it, from about the early 1980s part of Pax Christi Maine, first in Bangor, and then since about 1990 in Holton. And I've experienced Pax Christi through a lot of different retreats and mini retreats, from very passionate, powerful, well-known speakers to Taizé prayer and intimate Eucharist services, to silent meditation, small group discussion, and political action. I also think of Pax Christi as my spiritual home, and Pax Christi Maine folks as my true faith community. I've belonged to various churches through the years, but it's here that I'm free to express my faith, and this is where I grow spiritually. I'm very grateful to the many Pax Christi elders that I've known through those years, some of whom are still living and some who've moved on. They've set an example of living nonviolence in a loving way. These are people who've been praying and working for peace through World War II, the Korean War, the Vietnam War, voting rights for all Americans, the civil rights movement, the movement for nuclear disarmament, Central American conflicts, the Gulf War, wars in Iran, Iraq, and Afghanistan, indigenous rights, and the effort to maintain democracy in the US through it all. These people have witnessed to the nonviolence of Jesus. They've taught me by example that there will always be a struggle, and there will also always be a creative and nonviolent way to respond to the problems of the day, whatever they are. We can pray to continue their legacy and pass on their experience. And we can notice the new way that the next generation is carrying on and support them in that. And I'd like to add that recently through Zoom, like Jack says, I've been able to experience Pax Christi USA and see the vibrant young people and how much bigger this is than those few of us in Maine. So thank you.
Thank you, Mary Beth. Someone else want to carry on? Anne?
I was introduced, I'm Anne Ferrara. And I was introduced to Pax Christi out on Long Island, New York, when I moved there to the parish of St. Mary's. And one of the first things we did as Pax Christi Long Island was to join Pax Christi New York to do the Stations of the Cross, starting at Times Square. And each station took us either to a bank that was supporting the war or to a recruiting station that was inviting people into violence. And I think it was that experience that kept me in Pax Christi for these many years. So in 1980, I was blessed to move into a vibrant gospel-centered parish in East Islip, New York, St. Mary's. Pax Christi was an important part of many parishioners' lives who were part of the peace and justice community there. The social teachings of the church, the plight of our sisters and brothers in Central America, apartheid in South Africa, nuclear weapons proliferation, these were the subjects of Sunday homilies week after week. When we moved from New York to Maine, I could not find a comparable parish, but Pax Christi was here and doing the work of the nonviolent Jesus. I found companions who shared my spirituality and who inspired me to grow and learn and commit more and more deeply to nonviolence as the only way of life that Jesus taught. As my disappointment with our institutional church grew, my gratitude for Pax Christi grew astride. The annual retreats feed my spirit. The mini retreats buoy me during times of almost despair at the state of the world and the church. And going to a rally that promotes nonviolence, being organized by social justice organizations in the community, and seeing our Pax Christi banner just fills me with so much hope and gratitude. As we were encouraged at one of our recent retreats, our job now is to widen the tent. We must be leaven in the diverse sectors that we are a part of. Joining with others to study gospel nonviolence, nonviolent movements, nonviolent prophets has been very fruitful for my own spiritual path and for equipping me to share this path with others. Pax Christi Maine is an invaluable resource in our state and in our church. I thank God every day for this welcoming, brave, and committed community.
Thank you so much, Anne. Casey?
I'm Casey Murphy, and I've only been active with Pax Christi for a couple of years. I wanted to talk a little bit about the connection that I've found with Pax Christi USA and Pax Christi Maine together. I've really appreciated the Love is Political study circles organized by the national office. I've appreciated them so much that I don't think I've missed a single one of them. All on Zoom, which has pretty much been my experience of Pax Christi so far. But reading about advancing nonviolence in the Catholic Church, on Black Lives Matter and the Catholic Church, most recently on nuclear disarmament and the risk of the cross. The presentations were really informative, but what I really enjoyed was the small group discussion that went with each session, and how totally awesome it was to be in small groups with the people that wrote the books and the people that staged the protests and the people that are really out there living it. It was very, very challenging to me. There's a real element of community and prayer in my experience of this group. But what's really exciting to me is that we started, we wanted to have a group kind of like that right here in Maine. So we started a local study group here in our area. And we started with the Advancing Nonviolence text, and then moved from that to pretty old audio recordings of Charlie McCarthy's teaching on nonviolence from the 80s, which were incredibly relevant, very like almost scarily so relevant today. Then to recent podcasts with John Deere, to Brian Massengale's Teacher of Peace Acceptance speech, and most recently to a chapter by chapter study of Fratelli Tutti. We're about to read Archbishop Wester's letter together as well. So what really excites me is that our local group is now talking about how we can bring this experience that we now have as a community into our parish and start smaller discussions with parish people, looking, say, at maybe Fratelli Tutti to start. So what's so exciting is that what I experienced at the national level, we then brought home here to Maine in a Pax Christi group, but now going from there into the parish and talking even more widely and more openly. So to me, that's what Advancing Nonviolence is all about. So I'm pretty excited about that.
Thanks, Casey. Appreciate it. Ann O'Brien.
I'm Ann O'Brien, as stated, from Eastern Maine. And for me, Pax Christi has helped my personal and spiritual development and my drive to care about the people in my community, state, country, and the world. And I want to share one important experience of many, which is where I think all of us on the screen were gathered in Southern Maine at a retreat guided by Jack Seary. And at that retreat, I especially found peace, support, and clarity to do my work as a nurse. And I felt renewed and energized as a community volunteer. And I felt at a broader level more interested in advocacy and social justice in the country and in the world. And I want to try to share a picture from the retreat that I found in a garden. Whoops. Psalm 147. He heals the brokenhearted and binds up their wounds. Thank you.
So we have Sally and Mary Kate. Would one of you want to go next?
Hello, I'm Sally Chappell. I live in Bridgeton, Maine, and I've been a member of Pax Christi since the Iraq War, and I was invited to join by Bill Slavic, and it has really made a big difference in my life. I think one of the best things that Pax Christi did for me is helped me to focus on what is important. And in my personal mission, I've identified 3 E's: education, ecology, and ecumenism. And Pax Christi has helped me in every one of these areas. I'm very grateful to be a member of this wonderful community. And I really appreciate my Catholic faith, but I also appreciate every person's perspective, every person's faith. And Pax Christi has helped me to do that. Thank you.
Thank you, Sally. And last but certainly not least, Mary Kate.
Thanks, Mary Ellen. Hi, I'm Mary Kate Small. I live in the mid-coast of Maine. I've been in Maine a decade or so, and Pax Christi has been part of most of that time. Thanks to Pax Christi Maine, I also got involved with Pax Christi USA and served on the national board, and still am working with the development committee. So I'm grateful for all these connections. And so here's my prepared remarks. Pax Christi, Maine is a home full of feisty, peaceful spirits. Our Christic nonviolence is nourished there. Fed, we go out individually to the activist world, but often find one another there. One example is at Bath Iron Works, where the Catholic workers of Smiling Tree Disarmament Farm hold vigils, primarily during Advent and Lent. We join their work of saying no to weapons manufacturing. Another focus of ours is the closing of Guantanamo Bay. I inform our Council of Witness Against Torture's activities and efforts. We joined in solidarity recently, planning, then vigiling in our state capital for the 20th anniversary of the prison's opening. Pax Christi, Maine is a religiously diverse place, full of the wisdom of the elders. I am inspired by these loving souls and grateful for Pax Christi USA's lasting light.
Thank you, Mary Kate. I just knew today would be chock full of nourishing and wonderful narratives. Anything else? Go ahead, Ann.
Well, I just can't let this opportunity pass us by to offer our gratitude to you, Mary Ellen. Talk about a committed, fearless, prophetic leader. And I can't even express how grateful I am that my life has intersected with yours. Thank you.
Thank
I'm
you.
sure we all pretty much feel
Uh,
that way.
Mm.
I appreciate it very much.
And thank you to you, Lauren, for helping us put this together. Left to our own devices, we have plenty of good ideas, but we might have no idea what to do with them.
Exactly. Thank you again, Lauren, for setting this up and for all of you for making time today.
Well, carry on, my friends.
Have a
will-
good weekend, all.
Thank
you
you.
all.
You
Thank
too.
you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.